Three heads, old yang. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Three tails, old yin. Two tails, one head, young yang. Two tails, one head, young yang. Two heads, one tail, young yin. We'll start off by reading some passages from the book of Balance and Harmony. These essays, conversations, poetry, and songs about the secrets of Taoism teach how to live a centered and orderly life. Poems. Sense must be recovered. Essence is always there. Verses on meditation work, opening up darkness. To restore the primal wholeness of the mind, one must know how to remain unmoved and innocent, in spite of personal desires. Stabilization of consciousness depends on a calm and steady will, while enhancing awareness requires receptivity and docility. Through attraction to truth combined with appropriate action, extraordinary consciousness and ordinary consciousness are joined. When inner sense of the essence of mind is kept in the center of attention, with psychophysical vitality and spiritual awareness yoked by unified concentration, then one is able to proceed by oneself in the process of development. Gathering medicine. The timing involved in purifying consciousness in order to clarify real knowledge is not a matter of terrestrial time. It is to be discovered in oneself by concentration. When the mind is not fixated on external objects or internal impulses, there is an access of energy, registered in inner awareness. When emotions are inactive, one can sense the essence of mind. When generative energy is not dissipated, desire becomes a fuel for awareness, and consciousness is stabilized by objectivity. After combining intuitive and rational awareness and joining visceral and intellectual consciousness, when mundane conditioning loses its command and primal conscious energy is freed from adulteration, then it is possible to realize objective reality. Promoting the fire. Having gone through the time of the first arising of natural energy, you naturally have true positivity returning according to the time. The fire of concentration emerges from the heart. A peal of thunder along with movement comes from within stillness. Energy and spirit combining produce spiritual substance. Mind and breath resting on each other from the spiritual embryo. When you have passed through the experience herein, the 9 apertures of the 3 passes all open. Daily activity. The sense of real knowledge and the essence of conscious knowledge constitute the great elixir. These are to be gathered in formlessness. With doing and contrivance, after all, there's cogitation. With no seeking or grasping, there is no worry. Ever clear, ever calm, the mind pearl appears. Forgetting objects, forgetting impulses, the jewel of life's complete. The 2 roads of movement and stillness, free from obstruction, the Isle of Immortals is right where you are. Stabilizing the body. The sublime principle of complete reality is not hard to practice. Just avoid pursuing things, chasing sound and form. When illusions do not invade you, feelings naturally end. When the unified mind is unaffected, how can thoughts arise? Get rid of discrimination of others and self. Preserve the celestial design. Take yin and yang in hand. Join tranquility and development. I tell the imminent people who cultivate the elixir, when you don't indulge in the senses, the essence is complete and clear. Combining yin and yang. To reach the Tao is basically not hard. The work lies in concentration. When yin and yang, above and below, always rise and descend, the ubiquitous flow of vital sense naturally returns of itself. At the peak of awareness, reality becomes accessible to consciousness. In recondite abstraction, non-doing joins with doing. When the clouds recede and the rain disperses, the spiritual embryo is complete. The creative principle comes into play, producing a new birth. Passing through the barrier. After all, what's the difficulty in the real eternal Tao? It is simply in the daily activities of the present time. Once you join action and calmness and know how to open and close, the twin orbs of creativity and receptivity revolve on their own. There is an opening for return to the root. There is a pass for restoration of life. Having gone through these 2 experiences, one transcends the ordinary, goes beyond the holy, and is as if set free. Going out and in. The valley spirit not dying is the mysterious female. This is the opening and closing mechanism of activity and passivity. Coming and going over and over, never ceasing, they alternate successively without deviation. A white-headed ancient rides off on a dragon. A blue-eyed foreigner comes back on a tiger. What is realized as a result of the work? Throughout sky and earth, the moonlight shines. A warning. Mere talk of Zen is vain boasting. Extensive discourse and lofty talk take matters further afield. It is like seeking reality through empty forms, like producing visual distortions by rubbing the eyes. Though you pursue things, they're after all illusory. Snap your head around, and you arrive at home. Don't blame me for talking so harshly. Opening up the heart, there should be no blockage. Drawing back from error. 3,600 side door methods. Fixated people are befuddled by them. Daily wasting attention on reifying views. When will they ever understand life and return to the root? Why speak of exceptional attainment of intellectual brilliance? Expertise in intellectual knowledge is not worth discussing. All forms and names, all external characterizations ultimately amount to no more than so much mental gymnastics. Countering demons. How can torpor and drowsiness be prevented in meditation? Do you see the ghost faces and spirit heads? Torpor and distraction both stem from turbidity and energy. Thoughts of objects continue because of such conditioning. When the tide comes in, the water comes up to the banks. When the wind is still, there are no waves on the river. When essentially serene, feelings empty, mind unstirring, there's no torpor or distraction in meditation, no demons in sleep. Revealing the correct. Active and passive practice are easy. The medicine is not far away. The arising of natural energy is like the ocean tide. When you know how to gather both mercury and lead, all material cravings then will pass away. Overturn myriad existence and the three bases join. Refine away mundanities and the five energies arrive. Freeing the embryo in 10 months, the alchemy is complete. The infant's form appears and visits the spiritual firmament. Harmonization. The three basic great medicines are will, mind, and body. But if you fixate on will, mind, or body, you are entangled in objects. Turning the breath requires tuning the breath of the true breath. Tuning the breath requires tuning the breath of the true breath. Refining spirit calls for refining the non-psychological spirit. On suddenly forgetting things in self, the three flowers assemble. On powerfully discarding impulses and objects, the five energies arrive. With thoroughly pervasive attainment, there is no obstruction. At all times, in all places, one expresses complete reality. Clarifying the basis. Since the body is non-absolute, labels are arbitrary. Once there are labels, the mind gets tangled up. The waxing and waning of yin and yang, polish, present, and past. The rising and setting of the sun and moon convey birth and death. If you can maintain unified stability through time, then you'll know the stroke of midnight at noon. Though dealing with the world is something that needs teaching, the work of leaving the world must be clarified on your own. Forging the sword. An enlightened teacher taught me to forge the blade of spirit. What it all depends upon is the creative work of yin and yang. Tempering the firmness of heaven, earth does the forging. Fanning the fire of awareness is the wind of docility. Having achieved unfailing concentration, the mind director is skilled. Wiping out pernicious influences, the will general is valiant. When eminent learners of Tao know the meaning of this, it is easy for them to shatter cosmic space. The Moon Cave. The moon cave is clear and deep, the environment most beautiful. The one who dwells there makes a living upside down, refining the gold potion in the jade furnace, cooking white snow sprouts in the gold cauldron, operating the cosmic cycle, turning the handle of the Big Dipper, alternately passive and active, conveying the flow of energy. Having passed through all the barriers, he freely sails the silver river in peace. The hut of clarity. My hut is not an abode of idleness. Ordinary people are not allowed to see it on a whim. A wife and a husband make a living. 3 sons and 3 daughters form a group. The world therein has always been vast. The space outside is not really large. If you ask the master what he does, I reply that he faces south to gaze at the North Star. Poems extolling true happiness. Buddhas and immortals are all products of people of the world. Nevertheless, those astray simply do not know. Either they compete out of greed for fame, or else they rush around in a struggle for profit, groaning and sweating under the burden of business, laboring busily to support wives and children. Even if you're prosperous and have a beautiful wife, none of it will accompany you when you pass away. How can this compare to complete reality? Marvelous, unique. Here is true emptiness. Here is true happiness, known within one's heart. The elixir comes from non-refinement. Refined in refinement, the Tao goes to non-doing. Done in doing. Stopping thoughts, stopping entanglements, tune the generative energy, forget hearing, forget seeing, nurture the spiritual infant. After the alchemical foundation is securely set up, 5-colored light penetrates the curtains. Use earth for the furnace, heaven for the cauldron. Penetrate the subtleties, comprehend inner design, and you'll attain immortality. It's all a matter of controlling sense and returning it to essence. This is cooking mercury and mixing it with lead. Stop compulsive involvements and the pill of elixir glows. Keep correct concentration complete and the jewel crystallizes. This is the method of extraction and addition. No need to worry anymore asking about the mystery. Active and passive practice are easy. The medicines are not remote. Creative evolution is just like the ocean tide. The medicinal ingredients are just cold and non-being. The fiery elixir is cooked. wholly in concentration. When the primordial and temporal conjoin, all entanglements cease. When the celestial and earthly commingle, the five energies return to the source. When obscurity is gone and illumination is pure, then the work is done. The true human emerges and visits the spiritual sky. To refine the elixir, first harmonize energy and spirit. The water of reality is repeatedly poured on. The fire of wisdom heats it. Focus the spirit on energy. Purify energy by stillness. Preserve purity by attention. Then sense, essence, and will join into one. The primal celestial comes back. Conditioned mundanity dissolves. The golden furnace upright, 1,000 spirits meet. The work in the cauldron complete, myriad forms pay court. The medicine made, the elixir complete, the spirit goes free. The whole body emerges, now completely bared. The primordial ultimate spirit is subtle, hard to fathom. Sense must be recovered. Essence is always there. Vitality and consciousness are divided into upper and lower. The opening of the mysterious pass is right in the center. When you know being is not being, then that is really being. Understand voidness has no void, and that is real voidness. Non-being being, being non-being, this is the very point. The great sun glows scarlet at the bottom of the billowing ocean. Serene, unstirring, one merges with true eternity. Dissolving all obscurities, spontaneously restores light. In stillness, the will fosters the spiritual being. In concentration, consciousness weds unconditioned knowing. Inwardly stable in the midst of peril, energy grows. Action coming from calmness, vitality's ebullient. In the silver river, there's not the slightest shadow. The gold moon appears alone, shining with spiritual light. The marriage of the beautiful maid to the metal man depends entirely on the work of the yellow woman to join them. When husband and wife come together, the clouds and rain of their feelings combine. At leisure, they drink in the mansion on the crimson hill. Intoxicated, they sleep together in the chamber of the purple climax. Bliss in the evenings, happiness in the mornings. Their sympathy is profound. In a year, they give birth to a baby. There are husband and wife in everyone's body, but the ignorant are too fixated on delusions. Instead of seeking creative evolution within, they set up alchemical foundations outside. They mistakenly take arts of sexual intercourse to be the 9 cauldron of the ancient sages. It's hard for such animals to repent. Before long, death will come after them. I will tell you about the husband and wife inside the body. The blue-robed girl and the white-haired old man. When metal, sense, and wood, essence combine, black mercury and red lead spontaneously commune sensitively. Facing the moon and the breeze, the spirit is free and blissful, producing endless clouds and rain. If you can truly understand this ultimate principle, crystallizing the embryo of reality is then a simple affair. The 9 restored, 7 reverted great elixirs should be sought by learners in concentration. When you truly understand the spiritual mechanism, the 2 medicinal ingredients then combine. 3 years' development is completed in an instant. The work of 9 transformations is done in a trice. Now you take the cauldron and furnace and turn them over. Then the light of the elixir shines through the spiritual aisles. The unwritten transmission outside of doctrine is inherently complete in everyone. The mystic breeze subtly clears the world. The moon of wisdom beautifully stamps the 100 rivers. Zen conundrums are all artificial metaphors. Even direct pointing is still not the truth. Conveying the experience which is before history is not in the Confucian circle of the absolute. Alerting the world about the 4 conditions: body, mind, society, events, 4 empty names. How many confused people have been entangled by them? Calamity and trouble come from worldly power and materialism. Vicious circles come from obsession with objects. In trackless serenity, one may act at will, forgetting impulses when dealing with the world. Let events change as they may. When always letting go in the midst of situations, the foundation of life is secure. Essence is complete and clear. The gourd. The seed of spiritual illumination is produced primordially, stem firm, roots deep. The principle is naturally so. Daily add the soil of the state of earth. Irrigate at proper times with the spring and water. When the flower opens, white jade, it shines with light. When the fruit forms, yellow gold, it is round and firm. On completion, the top of the head opens up. Here, there is another universe. The mind mirror. Take the ore of heaven and put it in the furnace of earth. The totality of space becomes a single pattern. When the manifestation of reality is perfected, it is round and radiant. Where consciousness is polished, it shines with being as is. Emanating light, it pervades the universe. Put into storage, it is a tiny pearl. Raising it up clearly, the whole body appears. It's still necessary to break through to merge with the essential axis. The mysterious female. The door of the female of the mystic school is not hard to know. Collect body and mind and contemplate within. When you understand the principle of alternation of the 2 modes, then you know the timing of coming and going of the one energy. Heaven and earth, movement and stillness, open and close without cease. Fire and water, awareness and vitality, rise and descend, mixing and separating. Set up the alchemical foundation at the point where thought returns. Learning. Chan Buddhism, Confucian nominalism, the Taoism of complete reality. 3 schools of teaching were set up to contact later people. For Buddhists, elements are non-absolute. It's necessary to see the essence. As Confucians investigate phenomena, they must maintain sincerity. On the Taoists' alchemical stand are kept points of fire. All kinds of atoms are melted down in the spiritual mansion. When you understand all differences are resolved in one goal, then on the bright terrace, all is spring, inside and out. Verses on freedom. On breaking through the opening of chaos, there are no Buddhas or immortals. This is no marvel outside mind, and not mere verbal Zen. I pass the days light-heartedly roaming, and spend the nights freely sleeping. Letting my body sink into the realm of the absolute, I entrust all things to heaven. All created phenomena are dust, without exception. Comprehending the principles of things, I let go of mind and body. Wherever I am, I rest in meditation. At all times, I delight in reality. To waken the people of the world, I always use the marrow of the I-ming. Reaching the subtlety of non-doing, I don't go outside all day. Impulsive involvements ended, the celestial design remains. In daily affairs, the action of heaven is strong. In everyday life, the force of earth is calm. I remind and suggest to my students, return to life, go back to the root. Passing through all barriers, one merges with the great sameness. Tortoise hair is naturally always green. The crane's crest is originally scarlet. What can be verbalized is not the eternal Tao. Work that is done is external work. The true creative evolution is in profound abstraction. Having attained steadiness of body and mind, I still the spirit and stabilize energy. Body at ease, I transcend attachments. Mind serene, I realize the uncreated. Sun and moon come and go as they may. Heaven and earth change freely. Openness without obstruction reveals a unique, great light. There is nothing special in my daily activities, but to maintain unified central truthfulness. In stillness, I tune my breathing. In action, I follow common sense. Hiding my powers to assimilate to society, I contain my light and do not show illumination. In true freedom and bliss, I'm ever calm and ever clear. As I serenely embrace nameless innocence, feelings about objects cannot invade. As I fuse mercury and lead into powder, rubble turns to gold. Seeing the ancient sages, I reconcile Buddhism and Taoism. Immediately opening, I transcend to reality, where there is no past and no present. The lamp in the mirror. The precious mirror is basically formless. The lamp of communication emanates wisdom's light. Being as such is fundamentally brilliantly clear. The body of reality is originally radiant. The gold cauldron burns with true fire. The flower pond bathes the great light. The true meaning herein is not apart from the center. In the quiet room, I open the mirror of mind. In the vacant hall, I light the lamp of wisdom. Outside is clear and bright. Inside is effulgent light. A tiny grain appears in the glow. The silver moon is clear in the water. In the gold crucible, suspended in space, a grain of great elixir crystallizes. Extolling the lotus. One seed's spiritual sprout is different. Others are not like it at all. The spiritual body is fundamentally immaculate. The true essence is basically pure. The outward form is everywhere curved. The holes within go all the way through. Mud and mire cannot bog it down. When it appears, the whole pond is red. Our original pure immaterial seed is crystal clear throughout all time. Because it dislikes mental and material greed, it bides for a time deep in the mud. It always intends to help people out, ever determined to overcome selfishness. Of the many who try to take it, how many really know what it is? Building a hut. Choosing from the whole land of open non-reification, I find suitable conditions in the jade capital. In building the foundation, it must be steady and stable. In setting up the cauldron, it must be thoroughly level. Standing up the polar mountain as a pillar, I set across it the absolute as the main beam. The blue sky is the roof. The occupant enjoys the uncreated. Leveling off the ground, I finish the foundation the same day. The mountains come in from the south. The water flows out to the west. The door is completely open. The windows thoroughly clear. Who are the companions in the hut? The light of the moon, the clarity of the breeze. Our bottom trigram will be read as solid, solid, broken. This is the trigram. Dewy, lake or marsh. Dewy is lake and marsh, abundant energy that teems with life. She is the impulse to communicate, share and exchange, and delights in both inner and outer conversation. She brings things into circulation and gives them voice. This is the sheer enjoyment of participating in life to the full, expressing ourselves and hearing others, and satisfying our desires. Lake is the youngest daughter, spirit of the fertile west and of autumn. The top or outer trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, solid, broken as well, which is also dewy, lake, or marsh. So we're going to have a primary hexagram of joy, is what this one's called. Once our changing lines change, our first and third lines, old yang transforms to young yin, and young yin or old yin transforms to young yang. That'll give us a bottom or inner trigram of open, whole, whole, or broken, solid, solid. This is the trigram Zen Thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Whoops. Felt like I was doing the wrong thing. That's actually going to be broken, solid, solid. So that's Xun, window word. Apologies about the Zen Thunder thing. Pretend like that didn't happen. Xun is both wind and living plants. Whatever penetrates, spreads, and grows, shaping itself to the space available or shaping that space to its own nature. She is responsive flexibility, sensitively improvising and adapting. Like the wind, she can always find a way through because she never creates any resistance, and so her influence is subtle and gradual, but far-reaching. In the family of trigrams, Xun is the eldest daughter, gentle and submissive. She belongs to the southeast and to late spring and early summer. So dewy, lake or marsh above Xun, wind or wood. And dewy, lake or marsh will be above dewy, lake or marsh for our primary hexagram, which will give us hexagram 58, which, as I said, I believe is joy. And then dewy, lake or marsh above. Xun, wind or wood, gives us hexagram 28 as our supporting hexagram. We'll be getting the titles of our hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist I Ching. He wrote as a Taoist adept in 1796. Oh, first we have to, we got the numbers, never mind. 58 and 28. Ah. 58, joy. Communion of the inward and the outward. Joy in practicing the Tao. And our supporting hexagram 28, excess of the great. Following desires, delighting in externals, inability to control strength. Our supporting hexagram puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Our primary hexagram. So in order to understand the answer to the question we bring to the I Ching when we consult the oracle, that question having the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time, we'll understand the answer to that when we see how the parts of our reading work together. The key to understanding a reading is to know your way around its main components, how they fit together, and the different roles they play. If your reading includes changing lines, which ours does, the first and third, then you will need to understand primary hexagram, relating hexagram, and changing lines together. The two hexagrams in conversation with one another map out your whole answer. The primary hexagram shows you quite directly what your answer involves. The relating hexagram generally describes what the answer is about for you. It sets the primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. If the two hexagrams map out a landscape for you, then the changing lines stick a pin in that map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They are the immediate answer to your question. As the most specific, focused part of a reading, their message always takes precedence over all other elements. For example, the primary hexagram might describe a reassuringly secure situation, but a changing line could warn how insecure your position is within it. Primary hexagram 58, Hilary Barrett calls opening, and we're reading from a fairly beginner's I Ching commentary by Hilary Barrett. I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. Hexagram 58 she calls opening. Key questions. How can you fully enjoy the moment? What are you bringing to expression? What if you communicated and exchanged more freely? Oracle. Opening, creating success. Constancy bears fruit. The early Chinese character for opening shows someone with words rising from their mouth. They seem to be dancing and singing. It means joyful and outgoing expression that opens up communication. Opening brings people together and begins a lively, creative process of sharing and exchange. It liberates human energies, motivates people to overcome hardship, and encourages perseverance. Image. Lakes join together. Opening. A noble one joins with friends to speak and practice together. Two joined lakes open to one another, flow together freely, and enrich one another. The same is true of friends who join together to discuss and share their understanding. The exchange of ideas and pooling of insights makes everyone richer. Sequence. Opening follows from hexagram 57, subtly penetrating. Entering in and then rejoicing, and so opening follows. You subtly penetrate things and know them from the inside. Then you bring things out and express them with joy, taking delight in the freedom to interact and connect. And our supporting hexagram 28 will put our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 28, Hilary Barrett also calls Great Exceeding. Key questions. What is overloaded? What have you outgrown? What must you do? Oracle. Great exceeding. The ridgepole warps. Fruitful to have a direction to go. Creating success. When you exceed something, you cross over a line and make a transition. The traditional Chinese house has a structure like an old-fashioned tent. Uprights support a horizontal ridgepole, and all the weight of roof and walls is suspended from there. Here, the ridgepole's limits have been exceeded. The supporting framework is no longer adequate to the weight it's asked to bear. This means stress, and also a greatness of spirit and purpose that goes beyond the scope of the situation. It is fruitful to have a direction to go, to reach out imaginatively and explore. Since things cannot hold up as they are, there must be movement. Image. The lake submerges the tree, great exceeding. A noble one stands alone without fear, withdraws from the time without sadness. Water should sustain the tree, but an excess will drown it. Interaction and communication should sustain you, but too much will be overwhelming, drowning the natural growth of your spirit in a flood of demands and expectations. You cannot possibly absorb all these demands and preoccupations into your own identity. You would only lose yourself. So a noble one is not afraid to stand alone, nor is she depressed at leaving society behind. She is moved by an inner purpose and not a product of her environment. Sequence. Great exceeding follows from hexagram 27, nourishment. With no nurturance, it is not possible to act, and so great exceeding follows. Great exceeding is the opposite experience to nourishment. Imbalance instead of balance. Overloading the structure instead of living within it. But to be capable of the dynamic action, great exceeding requires you need to be well nourished. I'm going to read that the way it's supposed to be read real quick here. But to be capable of the dynamic action great exceeding requires, you need to be well nourished. We will now go back to our primary hexagram 58, joy, and read changing lines 1 and 3, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements, and they are preeminent. Line 1 and 3 have general context of their own. Line 1 is inklings, just beginning to sense what could be involved or needed. And changing line 3, an emerging identity facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Just in case you're curious of what all these are, the different changing lines and their general context is right here. Our primary hexagram 58, changing lines 1 and 3. Again, our most focused point of the reading in opening or joy. Changing line 1. Responsive opening, good fortune. This is the promising beginning of conversation. Not mere self-expression, but the capacity to listen and respond. You foster trust and make mutual enrichment possible by opening up your inner space to exchange. The foundation for this responsive communication is autonomy and self-reliance. It means that you have something to give and that you can create a harmonious connection that is not dominated or distorted by what people need from one another. Changing line 3. Coming opening, pitfall. Coming opening means looking expectantly for what you want to come to you, easily and on your own terms. You try to dictate how things will be. This doesn't work. The joy you seek can't simply come to you from outside, but only arises from authentic exchange. Wow. We will now read from James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes. He's synthesized several I Ching commentaries into one helpful place, which I've given links to in the description box below if you want to read past what I'll be reading. I'm not going to read every single commentary's line on every single thing. James Dekorne calls Hexagram 58 joy, which is our primary hexagram, or self-indulgence. Other titles: the joyous, joyousness, pleased satisfaction, encouraging, delight, open, usurpation, pleasure, cheerfulness, frivolity, or callow optimism, judgment, leg. Joy intimates that under its conditions there will be progress and attainment, but it will be advantageous to be firm and correct. Blowful, joy, success, persistence in a righteous course brings reward. Lu, joyousness, success, continuance is favorable. Ritsima/Karcher, open, growing, harvesting trial. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of interaction and exchange. It emphasizes that stimulating things through cheering and persuasive speech, the action of open, is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time you are told to. Stimulate. Slothnacy, usurpation, receipt, a little beneficial to determine. Cleary 1, joy is developmental, beneficial if correct. This hexagram represents joy in practicing the Tao. Having one's will in the Tao is finding joy in the Tao. When one delights in the Tao, then one can practice the Tao. This is why joy is developmental. Wu, joy indicates pervasiveness. It is advantageous to be persevering. The image, leg. Two images of the waters of a marsh, one over the other, form joy. The superior man, in accordance with this, encourages the conversation of friends and the stimulus of their common practice. Cleary 1, joined lakes are joyful. Thus do superior people explain and practice with companions. As water provides moisture for myriad beings, joy develops myriad beings. Joyful within and without, reaching the outer from within, communicating with the inner from without, inside and outside are conjoined, without separation between them. Therefore it is called joy. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. Joy has the meaning of pleased satisfaction, We have the dynamic lines in the center and the magnetic lines on the outer edges of the two trigrams, indicating that in pleasure, what is most advantageous is the maintenance of firm correctness. Through this, there will be found an accordance with the will of heaven and a correspondence with the feelings of men. When such pleasure goes before the people and leads them on, they forget their toils. When it animates them in encountering difficulties, they forget the risk of death. How great is the power of this pleased satisfaction, stimulating in such a way the people. Leg. The feeling of pleasure is the subject of this hexagram, which is made up of the doubled trigram of cheerfulness or pleased satisfaction. The progress and attainment of the figure are due to the one magnetic line surmounting each trigram and supported by the two dynamic lines. The idea is that of mildness, which is energized by a double portion of strength. The pleasure which leads the people to endure toil and risk death is the effect of the instructive example of their ruler. Fu Fan Hsien paraphrases this portion of the text as, when the sage with this precedes them, he can make them endure toil without any wish to decline it, and go with him into difficulty and danger without their having any fear. Anthony. This hexagram speaks on the one hand of that on which true joy depends, and on the other of joy as desire, which leads to conflict. The essence of true joy is inner stability. Being firmly devoted to our path, we do not waver. When we think of the soft and comfortable path, on the other hand, self-conflict begins. Therefore, getting this hexagram indicates that we may be wavering or irresolute. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. A cheerful attitude serves the will. The superior man shares his thoughts and feelings, or, psychologically interpreted, observes, weighs, and integrates his thoughts with his feelings. The title of this hexagram denotes joyousness and pleasure, and most people regard it as a good omen when they receive it. Yet, an analysis of the lines indicates that only the first two are particularly favorable, and the hexagram itself seldom seems to refer to anything remotely resembling joy. In a typical oracle consultation, the lessons to be learned from the figure are the difference between self-indulgence and maintaining emotional stability in one's conduct of the work, which always demands a firm control over one's effects. To receive this hexagram without changing lines requires the querent's careful discrimination. It can mean simply, "Oh, happy day," or it can suggest that you examine an inclination toward lack of control in the situation at hand. The oracle is capable of brutal sarcasm when your query warrants it, so don't be too quick to accept the shallow meaning of joy. As often as not, self-indulgence is the more appropriate title. A quote from Lao Tzu. In light frivolity, the center is lost. In hasty action, self-mastery is lost. Wow. The image depicts an open interchange among friends. Intrapsychically, this suggests the normal give and take between thoughts and feelings for the purpose of reaching integration. The symbol of two bodies of water conjoined, from Blofeld, might refer to the adjacent dimensions of thought and emotion within the psyche. When feelings are not in harmony with intellectual differentiation, a common phenomenon, give and take, or discussion and practice, is essential to effect integration, i.e. harmony or joy. Practice suggests cycles of time and the notion that perfection is still to be achieved. Slofnesy's seemingly anomalous title of usurpation for this hexagram offers some subtle insights into the symbolism here. Emotions, feelings, affects are often portrayed as demonic forces which usurp ego consciousness and indulge themselves in the joy of expressing whatever they happen to represent in the psyche. That daemon is D-A-E-M-O-N-I-C, daemonic, however you pronounce that. This is often what is implied when receiving this hexagram. A quote from Jung, Psychology and Religion. Each of us is equipped with a psychic disposition that limits our freedom in high degree and makes it practically illusory. Not only is freedom of the will an incalculable problem philosophically, it is also a misnomer in the practical sense, for we seldom find anybody who is not influenced and indeed dominated by desires, habits, impulses, prejudices, resentments, and by every conceivable kind of complex. All these natural facts function exactly like an Olympus full of deities who want to be propitiated, served, feared, and worshipped, not only by the individual owner of this assorted pantheon, but by everybody in his vicinity. Cleary's Taoist commentary, as water provides moisture for myriad beings, etc., supports this interpretation. Water symbolizes the emotional realm, and the myriad beings dwelling therein are emotional entities. Creatures like untamed animals, which are never happier than when running free. To them, it's joy. To the executive function in the psyche, it's self-indulgence. Usurpation has taken place. We will turn to our supporting hexagram 28, Great Possession. And this puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. James Dekorne calls it critical mass. Other titles might be preponderance of the great, the symbol of great passing, excess, great excess, the passing of greatness, great surpassing, great gains, experience, greater than great, greatness in excess, dominance by the mighty, the passing of greatness, excess of the great, or law of karma. Judgment, leg. Critical mass depicts a weak beam. Under such conditions, it is advantageous to move in any direction whatever. Success is indicated. Wilhelm/Baines, preponderance of the great. The ridgepole sags to the breaking point. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. Success. Blofeld, excess. The ridgepole sags. It is favorable to have some goal or destination in view. Success. A glance at the hexagram will show that it is too heavy in the middle and too weak at the ends. A number of firm lines is generally auspicious, but there can be too much of a good thing. Lou, great excess. The ridgepole is crooked. It benefits to go anywhere. Success. Ritzema/Karcher, great exceeding. The ridgepole sagging. Harvesting, possessing directed going, growing. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of your connection to a ruling principle. It emphasizes that pushing the guiding idea beyond ordinary limits and accepting the results is the adequate way to handle it. Slofnacy, great surpassing. The ridgepole bows upward. Beneficial to have some place to go. Receipt. Cleary 1. When the great is excessive, the ridgepole bends. It is good to go somewhere. That is developmental. When the ridgepole snaps, the whole house falls down. In the same way, practitioners of the Tao who promote yang too much, who do not know when enough is enough, who can be great but cannot be small, suffer damage to their spiritual house. Cleary 2. When greatness passes, the ridgepole bends. It is beneficial to have somewhere to go, for you will succeed. The image. Leg. The image of trees beneath a marsh forms critical mass. The superior man, in accordance with this, fearlessly stands alone and stays retired from the world without regret. Wilhelm/Baines, the lake rises above the trees, the image of preponderance of the great. Thus, the superior man, when he stands alone, is unconcerned, and if he has to renounce the world, he is undaunted. Blofeld. This hexagram symbolizes a forest submerged in a great body of water. The superior man, though standing alone, is free from fear. He feels no discontent in withdrawing from the world. This is suggested by the component trigrams. Water is necessary for the nourishment of the trees, but too much of it can cause serious damage. Lou, the lake rising over the trees symbolizes great excess. The superior man, when isolated, is undisturbed. If he has to retreat from society, he feels no regret. Ritzema/Karcher, marsh submerging wood, great exceeding. A Chun-tzu, or chief son, or superior person, uses solitary establishing not to fear. A Chun-tzu uses retiring from the age without melancholy. Cleary 1, moisture destroys wood in excess. Thus superior people stand alone without fear and leave society without distress. Cleary 2, moisture destroys wood, developed people, etc. Only when sustained by the power to stand alone without fear and avoid society without distress can learning be firmly rooted and development have a proper basis. Then it is possible to refine and support the mediocre. Wu, marsh covers over wood. This is excess of the great. Thus the Chun-tzu, or chief son or superior person, stands alone without fear and withdraws from the world without melancholy. Confucian commentary. Confucius/Leg. Excess is weakly supported at either end, with weakness in both the lowest and topmost lines. The dynamic lines are in excess, but two of them are in the central positions. The trigrams of flexibility and satisfaction indicate that there will be an advantage in moving in any direction whatever. There will be success. Great indeed is the work to be done during this extraordinary time. Leg. Extraordinary times require extraordinary skill in their management. The figure shows two magnetic lines at top and bottom with four dynamic lines between them, giving the image of a great beam unable to sustain its own weight. Lines 2 and 5 are both dynamic and central, however, and from this and the attributes of the component trigrams, a good auspice is obtained. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. A stressful situation is best managed with a comprehensive strategy, or, in the chess game of life, one succeeds by planning several moves in advance. The superior man serves the work by going his own way, regardless of public opinion. Wilhelm titles this hexagram Preponderance of the Great. I prefer R.L. Wing's paraphrase of critical mass as more evocative of the figure's meaning in modern terminology. In critical mass, four dynamic lines lurk inside of the hexagram, weakly contained at top and bottom by two magnetic lines. This energetic concentration could explode in an unpredictable release of force, and hence the judgment tells us to move now. Remember, non-action is also action, to avoid unwanted consequences. Often the outcome is predictable. Be prepared to just walk away if and when that is your best move. Leg's translation of the judgment is, it is advantageous to move in any direction whatever. This is a different message than Wilhelm's. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. Leg's version implies an almost hysterical flight from danger, while Wilhelm's rendition suggests prior intention and planning. The latter interpretation is definitely what is meant here, as confirmed by Cleary's Buddhist commentary. When the transformative path is flourishing, contaminations easily arise. It is best to set up guidelines and regulations. When meditation work is advanced, ignorance is about to dissolve. It is best to exercise the mind skillfully. Coupled with Cleary's translation of the image as developed people stand alone without fear, avoid society without distress, the idea is that one should follow one's best intuition and ignore popular illusions, political correctness, or inner fears. Psychologically, conventional thinking, socially conditioned reflexes, knee-jerk responses, etc. During a time of critical mass, pay close attention to direction from the self to preserve the work. This is not the time to follow the crowd. Sometimes this can mean that you are obliged to go it alone. One of the work's frequent tests. A quote from G. Knight in A Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism. The gulf is something that has to be leaped, and leaped alone, stripped of all hindering burdens in faith. It is thus one of the crisis points of spiritual progress because of the great temptation to turn back from the unknown to the apparent safety of known things. And to succumb to this temptation is to lose all the fruits of past endeavor. Suggestions for meditation. Compare the judgment and image of this hexagram with those of hexagram number 32, consistency. Anthony. We must regain modesty through the effort to rid ourselves of strong elements that cause us to press forward. The strong elements may exist in someone else, causing them to assault us with their fear, mistrust, or doubt. Strong refers to impetuous movement to resolve what is ambiguous. We can meet the challenge by remaining detached and letting things go through their changes. To be truly rich is to remain modest. To be truly powerful is to remain reticent. We'll go back to our primary hexagram and read our changing lines 1 and 3. They put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements. Forgot the other one. Anyway, 1 has the general context of inklings, just beginning to sense what could be involved or needed. Changing line 3 has the general context, an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. So in joy or self-indulgence, hexagram 58, our primary hexagram, we are reading changing line 1 and 3. Changing line 1, leg. The first line dynamic shows the pleasure of inward harmony. There will be good fortune. Blowfold, harmonious joy, good fortune. Clary 2, harmonious delight is auspicious. Turkish delight is also good. That was my rendition. Woo, there is joy in harmony, auspicious. Commentary, Confucius/leg. This arises from there being nothing in the conduct of the subject of the line to awaken doubt. Wilhelm/Baines, one's way has not yet become doubtful. Blowfold, this indicates our being able to act without being troubled by doubts. Ritzema/Karcher, movement not yet doubted indeed. Clary 2, action is not doubted. Woo, absence of doubt. Leg, line 1, dynamic in a dynamic place with no proper correlate above, is self-sufficient. He has as yet taken no action, and there is therefore no cause for suspicion. Notes and paraphrases. Sue, at the outset, the man lives in quiet, self-contained joy. Wing, a contented assurance about your path and principles leads to good fortune. With such an attitude, you do not need to rely upon external circumstances for your happiness. Editor, the image here suggests a cheerful self-sufficiency in the matter at hand. In some sense, the situation is obvious and under control. Inward harmony might relate to unconscious dynamics unavailable to conscious awareness. A quote from F. Hartman in Paracelsus, Life and Prophecies. If the individual mind is one with the universal mind, and if the possessor of the individual mind wishes to find out some secret of nature, he does not require to seek for it outside of the sphere of his mind, but he looks for it in himself, because everything that exists in nature, which is a manifestation of the universal mind, exists in and is reflected by himself. And the idea of there being two minds is only an illusion. The two are one. James Dekorne breaks changing line 1 down into 3 possible succinct definitions, A, B, and C. A, have a simple faith in the unfolding of the work and cheerfully accept the status quo. B, don't worry, be happy. C, inner harmony is sufficient unto itself. Changing line 1 and 3 may not entirely agree with one another in degrees of auspiciousness, but we'll mull that over and see what that could possibly mean for each of our individual situations. Leg. The third line, magnetic, shows its subject bringing round herself whatever can give pleasure. There will be evil. Wilhelm/Baines, coming joyousness, misfortune. Blowfold, coming joy, misfortune. The relation between the misfortune indicated by this line and coming joy is not very clear. Interpreting it rather loosely, the passage can be taken to mean that we shall suffer misfortune at a time when we are expecting something which would afford us happiness. In other words, the expected joy may not materialize. Lu, coming joyousness, misfortune. Do not follow another blindly, or mistakes and danger will result. Slofnacy, coming usurpation, inauspicious. Cleary 1, imported joy is not good. Cleary 2, coming for delight is inauspicious. Wu, he comes to seek joy, foreboding. Commentary. Confucius/Leg, the evil is shown by the inappropriateness of the line's place. Wilhelm/Baines, its place is not the proper one. Blofeld, misfortune is indicated by the unsuitable position of this line. Blah, blah, blah. Leg, the Kongsi editors say that the threatened evil to the subject of line 3 is due to her excessive devotion to pleasure. She should be strong, but the desire for pleasure leads her to the evil results described. Anthony, desire for things to be better, more relaxed, or pleasurable is the beginning of self-pity, doubt, and despair. Giving way to such feelings opens successively larger attacks by these same feelings. Fear, restlessness, desire, pride, jealousy, or anger are similar strong elements which quickly take over and cause movement which is no longer self-governed. Thus we lose our direction. If we look for any way to solve our problems other than to follow our path modestly and without purpose, we are certain to be put through distressing situations. For this reason, it is best not to dwell on how things should be, a thought which springs from these strong elements. Notes and paraphrases. Su, evil threatens the man because of his excessive devotion to idle pleasures. Wing, total abandonment to outside pleasures and diversions is only momentarily fulfilling. These indulgences in idle distractions will surely bring misfortune. True happiness will be found in the person full of his own nature. Editor, most commentaries mention self-indulgence or lack of control, which allow outside forces to enter and overwhelm one's will to serve the work. I have found Anthony's insights, which bear little conformity with general interpretations of what constitutes joy, to be particularly appropriate. A quote from ZBS Halevi in Kabbalistic Universe. The nefesh, animal soul, cannot see beyond its sensual or sensory range. While it is true to say the arguments of the body are shrewd, they are never deeply considered, as many a foolish moment of passion has shown in its result. James Dekorne breaks down changing line 3 into two succinct possible definitions, A and B. A, your lack of control leaves you vulnerable to disintegrating influences. B, your outlook is simplistic and immature. You are self-indulgent. We will also read from I-ming's. I just kick that thing? Nope. Okay, good. Tao Te Ching, he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. He calls Hexagram 58, translated again into English by Thomas Cleary, joy. Joy is developmental, beneficial if correct. I-ming's commentary is quite alchemical in nature. Joy is delight. In the body of the hexagram, two yangs are below, one yin is above. Empty without, fulfilled within, it is represented as a body of water, and its quality is joy. As water provides moisture for myriad beings, joy develops myriad beings. Joyful within and without, reaching the outer from within, communicating with the inner from without, inside and outside are conjoined, without separation between them. Therefore it is called joy. This hexagram represents joy in practicing the Tao. It follows on the preceding hexagram, travel. Travel involves applying understanding with stability so that understanding is not misused. Having one's will on the Tao so that no external things can move it. Having one's will on the Tao is finding joy in the Tao. When one delights in the Tao, then one can practice the Tao. This is why joy is developmental. However, though joy is developmental on the path, it is only beneficial if correct. When it is correct, it is beneficial, and one consummates one's joy. If incorrect, it is not beneficial, and one loses one's joy. As in the image of the hexagram with joy above and below, the 6 lines are parallel. The lower joy is inward joy, the upper joy is outer joy. When inward joy is fulfilled, outer joy is also fulfilled. And when inward joy is empty, outer joy is also empty. Fulfillment here means reality of joy. Emptiness means falsehood of joy. Reality means joy endures. Falsehood means joy does not last long. Herein lies the benefit of correctness. People who practice the Tao really correctly do not delight in objects of the senses, in wealth and gain. They delight in benevolence, justice, and the qualities of the Tao. So naturally they have real joy and do not strive for artificial joy. Thus, every step proceeds from the work they apply to the essence and life of body and mind. Joyful in the beginning, they can naturally complete the end. So joy always develops, and the development is always beneficial. And our supporting hexagram 28 puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 28, excess of the great. When the great is excessive, the ridgepole bends. It is good to go somewhere that is developmental. Explanation. Excess of the great means there is an excess of yang energy. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is lake, joyous, and below is wind, entering. Going along with what is inside, delighting in externals, following what one desires, when happiness culminates, it produces grief. In the body of the hexagram, inside are 4 yangs, and outside are 2 yins. Yang exceeds yin, and yin does not come up to yang. Therefore, it is called excess of the great. This hexagram represents harmonious blending of the medicinal substances, in which fullness requires use of emptiness. It follows on the previous hexagram, nurturance of the great. In nurturance of the great, one is strong, yet can stop and be still. Stilling strength, not letting yang energy get too excessive, is properly the means to nurture strength. In spiritual alchemy, the path of the gold elixir, we take 2 times 8 ounces of the polar energies and congeal them into an embryo. It requires that the great and small be undamaged, and both realms be complete. If yang energy is too strong and yin energy too weak, then yin and yang are not in harmony, and you lose the path of continual renewal. When yin culminates, there will be decay, and when yang culminates, there will be deterioration. Going on in this way, the trouble of the ridgepole house falls down. No, the trouble of the ridgepole bending and breaking is inevitable. When the ridgepole snaps, the whole house falls down. In the same way, practitioners of the Tao who promote yang too much, who do not know when enough is enough, who can be great but cannot be small, suffer damage to their spiritual house. If you can proceed breezily without becoming too intense, being harmonious and easygoing without clinging, mastering the ability to adapt to changes, preventing danger and being aware of perils, then firmness and flexibility will correspond. Yin and yang will balance each other. Though great, you can avoid excess so that it is beneficial to go somewhere. Consummating essence and perfecting life, you develop without hindrance. We will go back to our primary hexagram and read our changing lines 1 and 3. They put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements. Changing line 1 has the general context of inklings, just beginning to sense what could be involved or needed. Changing line 3 has the general context, an emerging identity, facing a transition, with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Our changing lines may not agree with one another 100%, but we are to just mull that over and see what that could mean in various ways in our own lives. Hexagram 58, changing line 1. Hexagram is called joy. The joy of harmony is good. Explanation. When strong and firm are always correct and upright, joy comes forth naturally, without any effort. This is called the joy of harmony. When joy attains harmony, one can be great or small, without damaging one's strength, naturally producing good results. This is the joy of strength under control. Then changing line 3, imported joy is not good. Explanation. When weak, imbalanced, and not correctly oriented, one does not delight in the inner, but delights in externals, giving up the real and pursuing the artificial. This is an obstacle to the practitioner of the Tao, who will thus never be able to enter the Tao. Obviously, it is not good. This is the joy of the weak who strive for externals. To close off, we'll read a chapter or possibly chapters from the Tao Te Ching, randomly card drawn. Shaggy's too many. I watched a lot of Tommy Boy as a kid. And here I am doing I Ching readings. Right? Isn't that how that works? Something like that, I think. Yeah, I'll take these. All right. Chapter 49 and 66. There's not a 99, so. This translation of the Tao Te Ching is written by Jia-Fu Fang and Jane English. Chapter 49. Well, not written by, translated. I don't know what I said. Supposedly written by Lao Tzu. There are other theories on that. But 49. The sage has no mind of his own. He is aware of the needs of others. I am good to people who are good. I am also good to people who are not good, because virtue is goodness. I have faith in people who are faithful. I also have faith in people who are not faithful, because virtue is faithfulness. The sage is shy and humble. To the world he seems confusing. Men look to him and listen. He behaves like a little child. Chapter 66. Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Because it lies below them. Therefore it is the king of 100 streams. If the sage would guide the people, he must serve with humility. If he would lead them, he must follow behind. In this way, when the sage rules, the people will not feel oppressed. When he stands before them, they will not be harmed. The whole world will support him and will not tire of him. Because he does not compete, he does not meet competition. This is Apricot wand. It's associated with Mars, Venus, and the moon, at least from my research, which could potentially correspond with the root chakra, the heart chakra, and the crown chakra. It's kind of a nice balance. Kizzy, kizzy.